I was the star of Dr. Worley's Adventure Club, a children's show that doesn't exist. Submitted by Like I Did. It probably goes without saying, but I felt fairly agitated after the call with Lee. Instead of getting answers, I was left with even more questions. It didn't help either that my mum acted even stranger around me and seemed to be avoiding me at all cost. I decided to go for a run so I could try to empty my head a little, but on my way out, I was stopped by Helen. I'd seen her a couple of times when visiting my mum in the past years, but besides the occasional small talk or birthday wishes, we hadn't been in contact much. I guess that's what happens when you grow older. Life happens and you lose touch with your childhood friends. I wonder if that's what happened to me and my actor colleagues as well, or whether there was more to it. After seeing that tape last night and talking to Lee, I wasn't sure of anything anymore. Alex. Helen walked over and gave me a big hug. "Can't believe you've been here for days without saying hi," she said as we sat down at the porch to catch up. "Sorry. I meant to, but I got a little distracted," I said. It felt strange that only a few days had passed since I sat in the car where that strange jingle activated something buried inside of me. I felt like I had just woken up from a dream just to realize I had entered a nightmare. "No worries, I'd been pretty busy too, but as of today I'm officially on summer break," she exclaimed and raised her arms in the air. "Summer break? I thought you were working already?" I asked. "I went back to school to study medicine." "Oh wow, we really needed to catch up," I laughed. "That's awesome." "Yeah, it's great. Anyway, how are you? Did you find out about that show you did as a kid?" There it was. The knot in my stomach tightened again. Helen was pretty much my best friend growing up. She even remembered talking to one of my friends from the show when we were younger. I took a deep breath and proceeded to tell her everything that had happened in the last days. All the weird memories that came back to me, which I couldn't explain. The weird conversation with my mum, the tape, and the phone call with Lee. I kept speaking without even taking a break, and she sat and listened to all of it. I know how insane this sounds. I still think that the tape was just some weird prank from Lee. Helen stayed quiet for a while. "But that doesn't explain your mum being weird about it," she finally said. "I mean, maybe she feels guilty or something? I don't know. But I don't know, maybe I'm going crazy, but my gut tells me there's so much more to it. If I could only remember." "I did find it a little strange that you forgot about it. It wasn't that long ago, and it's not really something you'd just forget about, you know?" I nodded, "But, what troubles me the most is that phone call you had with him. You haven't talked to this guy in years, and suddenly he tells you that some young version of him told him he should die? Whatever happened or whatever is going on, it sounds like he might need help. Did you try to contact him again?" she asked. I bit my lip. I hadn't called him again. I basically threw my phone in the corner after the call and tried to forget about it. Of course, I couldn't. I shook my head. I should have. It's just, after seeing the tape I couldn't really think straight. "Can I see it?" Helen asked. I was probably even more nervous showing her the tape than when I watched it myself, but she listened to everything I said, and she seemed to be understanding. She didn't make me feel guilty or crazy or anything. I was glad that I opened up to her. Helen sat down on the sofa as I inserted the tape back in the player. My hands started trembling. I wasn't ready to watch the madness again, so I turned my face towards her instead of the television. Dun dun do do dun. Wonderful afternoon, adventurers and explorers, and welcome, welcome, welcome. Are you as excited we are for another episode of Worley's Adventure Club? Yikes. Dr. Worley looks more like Dr. Molesty, Helen joked. I stayed silent as I observed her reactions. Aw, look at that, what a cutie. You didn't tell me you were the leader of the group. Oh, and that's Lee, right? The one in green, yeah, I said without turning to the screen. Yeah, he was cool. A bit edgy, she laughed. But I guess we all were in 2009. Okay, now I don't get it anymore. What age group was this made for? She asked and raised an eyebrow. There it was. She must be seeing the fucked up murder scene, I thought. For some reason, she stayed weirdly calm. I finally turned my gaze to the television, but I didn't recognize what was going on. It didn't look like the scene I had seen yesterday. The four of us had a treasure map and were exploring something. The imagery reminded me of Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. There was no blood and no dead child lying on the floor, but it had to be the same tape I saw yesterday as I had gone back to the moment where I started. Like, It looks like some scavenger hunt, but what the hell is that language? Helen asked. It was the same gibberish I had heard when I watched the tape. Wait, hand me the remote. She rewound the tape back to the starting moment. The moment where Dr. Worley introduces us. She got close to the screen and took a photo of my face. Then she went forward to the scavenger hunt and did the same thing again. What the fuck? Helen mumbled. That doesn't look like your face. It doesn't look like a face at all. Did they make you wear masks? She handed over the phone, and I scrolled back and forth. She was right. It was the same thing that I had noticed yesterday. My face looks strange, but this wasn't just makeup. The proportions were slightly off, as if someone had plastered a second face on top of mine. But only in the later frames. We checked again, and it was the same for the other faces. Maybe I muttered. I honestly don't remember anything about the filming part. It would be strange to leave the introduction normal but change your looks for the rest. Or maybe the intro was something they always played. Are there any more episodes? I don't know. Lee only sent me this. I answered. This is really disturbing. She whispered, we should try to call him. It took about 6 times, but finally, Lee picked up. I wasn't really sure what to say, but Helen took control pretty quickly. After reminiscing about old times for a while, Lee seemed a lot more relaxed, and I'm not sure how else to describe this. He seemed normal? I was still a bit skeptical, but hearing them talk about regular life helped ease my nerves a little. Finally, she got to the point. So Alex and I watched the tape. Are there different videos? 'Cause he saw something else that I did. No. It's one tape. One video. There is just this one episode. I probably shouldn't have sent it, but it's been creeping me the fuck out. I constantly have nightmares. And he stayed quiet for a while. I haven't talked to anyone about this except my therapist. I wanted to destroy the tape, but then I got that mail from Alex. I'd almost forgotten about you, man. Yeah, me too, I said. I hadn't said anything since we started the call, even though we had the speaker on. You shouldn't have shown it to her, though. I warned you about that. It's okay, I didn't find it that scary at all. It was cute. Helen chimed in. So, this might be a little weird, but why don't we meet up? We're old enough now to drive, she then suggested. Lee stayed quiet for a while. Yeah, fuck it. Why not? But could you come here? I can't really leave. I'm taking care of my grandpa. It all happened really fast, but there we were, driving to the town where I was born. The place I had almost forgotten. There were a lot more trees surrounding the town than I remembered. We passed the sign to Fairway. I remembered how Mom always talked about visiting the town sometime, but we never actually did. Martin. That's kind of a nasty name, Helen said as we passed another sign to a town. It's actually pretty nice. We went there a couple of times to go to the farmer's market. Well, the few times Mom was around. Helen gave me a sympathetic smile as we drove through more trees. And finally, there it was, the big sign saying "Welcome to Wadden." A vivid but grey town somewhere in the middle of nowhere. I don't know what I was expecting. Some part of me kept thinking this was all some fucked up trap and we would be walking right into the arms of Dr. Worley himself. Instead, a slightly older version of the green boy from the video opened the door, with a shy smile on his face. "You're not blonde anymore," he said towards me. From closer up, I noticed the massive bags under his eyes. His voice had gotten deeper, but I guess so had mine. Nope, grown out of that, I guess. I hesitated for a moment before going in for an awkward hug. "And nice to finally meet you in real life, Helen. Is this your first time in Wadden?" She nodded. "Yeah. It's nice," she said with a friendly smile. No need to be polite. It's a garbage town. The only reason I still live here is my grandpa. Lee laughed and welcomed us inside. "I've been here before," I mumbled as we walked inside the house. Lee's parents had passed away when he was very young. His grandparents were the ones who raised him, but apparently his grandmother recently died as well. "Oh yeah, you came here sometimes after the show when your mom would work. You remember that?" I asked. He shook his head. "Not really, but we have some photos. I actually don't remember a lot from back then." "Yeah, sounds familiar. Have you been in contact with any of the other actors from that show? The girls?" Helen chimed in. "I chatted with Janie a few times. Around the time I talked to you guys as well." I got my phone and sent him the response I'd gotten from her the other day. He nodded knowingly. "Yeah, That's pretty much what my last interaction with her looked like. Lee got us some cups and coffee as we sat around his kitchen table. It didn't take long for us to feel comfortable with each other, and the longer we talked, the more memories of my past came back. But still nothing about filming the show. You know, I was actually a little nervous when you sent me that mail. Thought it was some sort of trap. Sounds ridiculous, right? Lee said while he poured coffee in our cups. Trap? Helen raised an eyebrow. From who? Don't know. Dr. Worley? Lee laughed nervously. Or the producers of the show, or some crazy fan maybe? Although that's not plausible as the show doesn't even exist. What do you mean it doesn't exist? We have the tape right here. Helen responded and pointed towards her backpack. Yeah, I mean there's this one video. That's it, though. They aired the same shit every day for like a year. Wait a second. He left the room, and we heard him go upstairs. Do you think we can trust him? I whispered towards Helen, to which she only shrugged. Okay, this is everything I've collected so far. I know it looks a little obsessive, but well, it's been a rough couple of days. Lee was back with a pile of papers, photos, and notes. That tape you saw is the only thing we ever filmed. Except, I don't think everyone that watches it sees the same thing. And well, you guys kinda proved that theory. Helen saw some scavenger hunt, yeah? That's what it looked like to my grandpa too. But this show was fucking popular with other children. I remember people in school telling me for years how obsessed they were with it. Then why did it get cancelled? I asked to see whether Lee's theory would confirm the things my mother hinted at. Because something strange seemed to happen to some kids who watched it. They'd disappear, some apparently started killing their pets, and some killed themselves. I finished his sentence. That's what it looked like. I don't know. This is so fucked up, Helen mumbled. We went through some of the articles, and it was true. There was a series of seriously messed up events taking place. For a while, nobody realized that it was connected to Dr. Worley's Adventure Club, but then more and more parents found notes from their children saying they were going to explore a new world or similar stuff. The show was cancelled shortly after that. What is this? Helen asked as she held up a photo. A photo of the four of us with Dr. Worley taken in the studio. Except, Millie's face was blackened out. On top of our heads, someone had written "murderer" in red letters with an arrow pointing towards Lee and me. Lee didn't say anything for a little while. It seemed as if he was carefully collecting his words. Janie sent this to me. He finally said. That photo, it woke something up inside of me. Not a visual memory, but a feeling. A terrible feeling. Suddenly the jingle made its way back to my mind, but this time the sound was followed by a cry. My hands started shaking, and I started sweating nervously. Lee. Is Millie dead? He looked me straight in the eyes, with a look that matched mine. I don't know, he whispered. I can't find any information about her. Sorry, Lee, but this is getting really strange. Helen quickly got up from her seat. Her expression, a mix out of fear and disgust. I'm not buying this. You forgot about being part of some murder show and happened to remember it at the same time as Alex? I felt terrible seeing Helen so freaked out. And for bringing her here at all. We never even thought about Lee being dangerous, but what he said next made me understand everything better, even if it didn't necessarily help with the fear. I know how eerie this sounds. I'm going fucking insane myself, and hadn't Alex reached out, I don't know that after seeing that tape, man, I was so messed up. He took a deep breath. The memories didn't come out of nowhere. I heard that damn intro song. The weird melody. Dun dun doo doo dun, I mumbled. Where did you hear it? I added in a louder voice. I heard it on the radio. Well, my grandpa and I did. He's got dementia and doesn't remember much about anything, but when that spot came on, he suddenly whispered Dr. Worley and smiled at me. I had forgotten all about it for so many years, but after searching through our basement, I found that tape. Helen and I shot each other a look. The spot? Was it for a burger place? I asked. Not sure if it was burgers, but I think it was called Larry's Wine and Dine or something. I got up from my chair, adrenaline was rushing through my body. I don't think that radio spot was a coincidence, Lee. Not if I heard it in a whole different state. I think Dr. Worley is trying to reach out to us.